It started on a Sunday that felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be. Too bright for melancholy, too quiet for company. I'd been sitting in that corner cafe again, pretending to read while my phone faced down on the table. The coffee had gone cold, but I didn't have the energy to ask for another. She walked in the way people do when they're not trying to be seen. A cardigan draped loosely over her shoulders, hair pinned up in that careless way that only looks effortless when you've stopped caring who notices. Mira, my girlfriend's older sister. We'd seen each other before, of course, birthdays, a few dinners, once when she'd given us a ride home and hummed softly to the radio the whole way. I used to think she was just quiet. Now, watching her order coffee in a voice barely above the hum of the machine, I realized she was measured, every word chosen like it had a cost. She noticed me after a few seconds. Her eyebrows lifted slightly, like she was still deciding whether to smile. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied, closing my book that I hadn't really been reading. She hesitated before sitting across from me, her cup cradled in both hands. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I come here a lot," I said. "It's kind of my quiet place." She nodded. "Figures. You look like someone who collects quiet places." That made me laugh, softly. "Is that a bad thing?" "No," she said, looking down into her cup. "Just rare." The silence that followed didn't feel empty. It was something else, like both of us had accidentally stepped into a space that wasn't meant for us, but somehow fit. She remembered my order. I noticed when she told the barista. "And he takes his coffee with 1 sugar, no cream." I tried to play it off, but it did something to me. That small act of remembering. "You remembered," I said. "You're easy to remember," she said without looking up, stirring her cup. There was nothing flirtatious about it. Not yet. But something had shifted. I felt it in the way her sleeve brushed the table, and how her ring finger tapped twice before going still. We talked about small things, her new job at the gallery, how her car stereo only played 1 station now. I found myself watching the way she spoke more than what she said. There was a calmness in her pauses, a kind of patience I didn't see much in people my age. At one point, she caught me glancing at her hands. "What?" she asked, half smiling. I shook my head, feeling stupid. "Nothing. Just you talk with your hands. It's nice." She laughed, quiet but real. I didn't know I did. She had to leave before I finished my coffee. She gathered her things with that same deliberate grace, the cardigan slipping slightly as she stood. "Tell Emma I'll call her," she said, referring to her sister, my girlfriend. "I will," I said. She paused, eyes flicking over me once, quick and unreadable. Then she leaned in slightly, just enough for me to catch the scent of coffee and rain in her hair. "You never looked at me like that before," she said softly. Before I could answer, she was already walking out, her reflection briefly passing over the cafe window. I sat there for a long time after, staring at the steamless cup between my hands, feeling, for the first time in months, seen in a way I couldn't explain. When I finally turned my phone over, there was a text from her sister. "Can you come over tonight? I think we need to talk." I told myself it didn't mean anything. That look, her words, they were probably just something people say when conversation slips too close to silence. But I kept thinking about it anyway. A few days later, Emma, my girlfriend, asked me to drop off some books her sister had borrowed. She said it casually, like she didn't know what those words did to my chest. Mira lived in a small apartment above a flower shop, the kind of place that always smelled faintly of something alive. I knocked, books in hand, rehearsing how not to sound strange. She opened the door wearing reading glasses and a soft gray sweater. Her hair was up again, loosely. "Oh," she said, smiling in quiet surprise. "Didn't expect it to be you. Emma asked me to bring these," I said, holding the books up like proof. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. The apartment was tidy, but lived in, mugs on the counter, half-finished painting on the easel. She moved around the space with easy calm, like everything was where it belonged. "You paint?" I asked, nodding toward the canvas. "Sometimes," she said, "when I can't sleep." "What about?" Nothing really. I just mix colors until something feels less heavy. That stayed with me. The way she said less heavy, like it was a thing you could measure if you were careful enough. She made tea, chamomile, and poured it into mismatched mugs. We sat on opposite sides of a small table, knees almost touching. I told her about my final year in college, how I wasn't sure I wanted to finish, how I sometimes wondered if Emma and I wanted the same life. She didn't say anything right away, just watched the steam curl between us. "You're young," she said finally. "You're supposed to be unsure." "And you?" I asked. Her smile faltered. "I'm old enough to know uncertainty doesn't always go away. You just learn to live around it." I wanted to ask what she meant, but her eyes had already gone somewhere else, distant, like she was remembering something she couldn't say out loud. The quiet stretched. She reached for the sugar jar and brushed my hand by accident. It was nothing, the kind of thing that should have gone unnoticed. But neither of us moved for a second too long. She withdrew first. "Sorry." "It's fine," I said quickly. Her lips curved, faintly. "You always say that." "Say what?" "It's fine. Like everything has to be." I looked down at my mug, realizing how often I used those two words to keep things still. When I stood to leave, she walked me to the door. I hesitated, the books on her table, the warmth still in the air between us. She reached up, brushing a speck of dust from my collar. A small, simple gesture. But her fingers lingered just a heartbeat too long. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. I would think later. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me and didn't look away. The next time I saw her, it wasn't planned. It was late. I'd gone to Emma's place after class, only to find the apartment empty except for a note on the counter. "Running errands with Mira. Be back soon." I waited for a while, scrolling through my phone, half listening to the hum of the refrigerator. Then I heard footsteps in the hall. Laughter. 2 voices. When the door opened, Mira stepped in first, her cheeks pink from the wind. She froze a little when she saw me standing there. "Oh, you're here." "Yeah," I said too quickly. "Emma said you guys." She ran back to the store. "Forgot something." The silence that followed was too soft, too familiar. Mira set down the grocery bag on the counter, hands brushing against the fabric of her coat, as if she needed something to do. "She told me you might help her with that event next week," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Maybe," I said, "if I'm around." The words hung there, empty but loaded. She looked up then, like she wanted to say something else, but didn't trust herself to start. Her lips parted, then closed again. "You seem tired," she said instead. "I haven't been sleeping much. Still thinking too much." Something like that. A small smile ghosted across her face. Not amusement, just recognition. She began unpacking the bag. Tea, bread, 2 apples. I moved beside her, automatically helping. Our hands brushed once, twice. Neither of us said anything. At one point, she stopped, holding the kettle in midair. "This is strange, isn't it?" "What is this?" Her eyes flicked toward me, then back to the counter. "Us talking like this, without her here." I swallowed. "Yeah, I guess it is." She filled the kettle anyway, her movements quiet, deliberate. I could hear my own breathing. The click of the stove felt too loud. "I don't want you to think," she started, then stopped, exhaling. "Forget it." "No, say it." "It's not my place," she said softly. "You're hers." The word felt heavier than it should have. The kettle began to hum, building pressure. She stepped back, arms crossed, trying to look anywhere but at me. "You should wait in the living room," she said. But I didn't move. I just stood there, staring at the steam curling between us. It felt like a border neither of us had agreed on, but both understood. Then, a sound, keys turning in the lock. Emma's voice filled the doorway. "Hey, sorry, took forever." Mira flinched slightly, turning away to hide it. "Tea's almost ready," she said, her tone too even. When our eyes met again, it was only for a second, a pulse of something unspoken before she looked down, pretending to stir her cup. Later, as we all sat together, I caught her reflection in the window. Her gaze flicked toward me, Not longing, not guilt, just that quiet ache of almost. If I'd leaned an inch closer in that kitchen, if the key had turned 1 second later, I don't know what would have happened. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. It happened after the rain. Not a storm. Just that slow kind of drizzle that soaks through everything without ever really starting. I'd left the cafe late, and she was outside, standing under the awning, holding her umbrella closed at her side. "Mira," I said, half surprised, half expecting her somehow. She smiled faintly. "Car's dead." Again. We started walking together, the kind of walk that wasn't planned, wasn't long. Just enough to fill the silence between where she was and where I needed to be. The air smelled of wet concrete and coffee grounds. Streetlights hummed. She walked a little ahead, her umbrella tilting toward me so I wouldn't get wet. That small kindness felt heavier than it should have. "You've been quiet lately," she said after a while. "I've been trying not to be obvious," I said before I could stop myself. She slowed. "About what?" I shrugged. "Doesn't matter." But it did. It mattered in every way. We reached the bench outside her building, the same spot we'd stood weeks ago when I dropped off those books. She sat down, the umbrella dripping onto the pavement. I stayed standing, hands in pockets, pretending to check my phone. "Emma says you've been distant," she said quietly. "Yeah," I said. "Guess I have." "She worries." "I know." A pause. "So do I." That stopped me. I looked at her, really looked, and saw it. The exhaustion beneath her calm. The way her eyes darted like she was afraid of what they might give away. "You shouldn't," I said, voice low. "I can't help it." Her fingers tightened around the handle of her umbrella. The metal clicked softly. "I keep thinking about that day," she said. "At the cafe." "So do I." The words hung there, uninvited but honest. "I shouldn't have said what I did," she whispered. "It was careless." "It wasn't." She looked up at me then, eyes sharp, wet with something unshed. "Don't make this harder." "I'm not." "Yes, you are," she said, her voice breaking just enough to sound real. "You're young. You think this, whatever this is, means something simple. It doesn't." I wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't form. Everything I felt sat between my ribs, pulsing. She reached for her bag, like ending the moment might undo it. But her hand trembled slightly. She noticed me noticing. "Don't look at me like that," she said. "Like what?" "Like you want to understand me." Silence again. Only the faint hum of passing cars. I could see her breathing shallowly, as if holding back something she'd regret saying. She stood slowly, umbrella still folded. "Go home," she said, "before this turns into something we can't explain." I didn't move, just watched her step past me, her shoulder brushing mine. For a second, we both stopped. The distance between us, inches, maybe, felt like a question neither of us wanted to ask. Then she kept walking, and I let her. After that night in the rain, I didn't see her for weeks. Emma said Mira had taken some time off work, something about visiting an old friend up north. She said it lightly, but I caught the way she avoided my eyes. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe she did. I told myself I didn't care. I focused on finishing my term, on keeping conversations with Emma safe and short. But I caught myself glancing at the cafe door whenever I passed, waiting for her shape in the reflection of the glass. Nothing. Then one afternoon, I found her thermos, the same one she always carried, sitting behind the counter. The barista said she'd left it weeks ago. I held it for a moment, the metal still faintly smelling like chamomile. It felt like being handed a heartbeat that didn't know where to go. I put it in my bag. Didn't tell anyone. When she finally texted, it wasn't what I expected. "Hey, hope you're doing okay. Don't worry about me. It's better this way." No greeting, no signature. Just that. I typed out a dozen replies. "Where are you?" "Better for who?" "You left your thermos." Deleted them all. A few days later, I went to Emma's place again. Myra's car was in the driveway. My pulse did that thing it shouldn't do anymore. She opened the door before I knocked. Her hair was shorter. The smile she gave me was practiced. "Hey," she said softly. "Did you need Emma?" "She's out." I wanted to hand her the thermos right away, to make it about that, about something simple. But I just stood there, staring at her like I'd forgotten how to be casual. You cut your hair, I said. Yeah, she said, touching the edge of it. Needed a change. Her tone was even, distant, like we'd been strangers once and had returned there out of necessity. Can I started, but she was already shaking her head. It's okay, she said quickly. I think we both said enough. I didn't know what she meant. Maybe she was right. Maybe silence was safer. But there was something in her eyes, tired, regretful, that made me wonder if she'd told herself the same lie I was living. Behind her, the kitchen light was on. The same one that used to hum late at night when I'd sit there, waiting for Emma, pretending not to listen for Myra's voice. I should go, I said. She nodded. Take care of yourself, okay? I handed her the thermos. She took it carefully, fingers brushing mine just once. Thanks, she whispered. And that was it. She closed the door gently, like she didn't want to wake something sleeping between us. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door, waiting for it to open again. It didn't. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. It happened on a Wednesday evening, the kind of day that doesn't feel like it belongs to anyone. Emma had just left town for a conference. I was supposed to feed her cat. Simple. No reason to think Mira would be there. But when I unlocked the door, she was sitting on the couch, a mug between her hands. The same thermos beside her. Oh, I said. I didn't know you were. She asked me to water the plants, she interrupted softly. Guess we both got assigned. We stood there for a moment, both pretending not to know what the silence meant. The TV was on mute, some talk show flickering wordlessly. She looked older somehow, or maybe just more certain of the distance she was keeping. You've been okay? I asked finally. She nodded. Trying to be. That sounds like something you say when you're not. She almost smiled. You always did read too much between lines. I sat down on the armchair across from her. She poured me tea without asking. Chamomile, of course. The smell alone made my chest ache. I thought leaving would help, she said quietly. It didn't. Help what? Stop thinking about things I shouldn't. The words hung there, fragile but honest. I looked at her, really looked, at the small lines near her eyes, the way her hand trembled slightly as she lifted her cup. You don't have to pretend with me, I said. Her laugh was soft, almost a sigh. Pretending is all I do. That's what being older means, I think. You learn how to stay composed while falling apart inside. I leaned forward, elbows on knees. Then maybe I'm too young to let you do that alone. Her eyes met mine, steady, searching. No games this time. Just two people standing at the edge of something neither had the right to want. I can't be the reason you ruined something good, she said finally. Maybe it's already ruined, I said. She shook her head. Don't make this about me. The air felt thick, not with tension anymore, but with acceptance. Like we both knew the line we were standing on, and how close our toes were to crossing it. She put her cup down quietly. You should go before I say something I mean. I stood, but didn't move toward the door. If you did, I asked, would it change anything? Her eyes softened, that familiar mix of longing and restraint. No, she said, barely above a whisper. But it would make it harder to forget. We stood there a moment longer, neither moving, neither ready to break the spell. Then she reached out, touched the back of my hand. Just once. A brief, human gesture. Nothing more, but everything we'd been avoiding. Her thumb brushed lightly over my knuckles before she pulled away. Okay, she said, with a small, steady smile. It wasn't an ending. Not really. Just the quiet kind of peace that comes when you stop running from what can't be. It's been a year. The cafe still opens at 8:47. Same hum of the espresso machine. Same old bench outside that still creaks when you sit too fast. Mira comes in sometimes. Never on purpose, just when our mornings happen to overlap. We still pretend it's coincidence, but we both know better. She still takes her coffee black now, says she's trying to appreciate the bitterness. I still order mine with 1 sugar, no cream. Some habits don't change. Others quietly do. Emma and I ended things months ago. There wasn't drama, just a long, mutual exhale. We both knew it had been fading before either of us admitted it. She moved away for work. We keep in touch sometimes. It's fine. Mira and I never talked about that night again. We didn't need to. The air between us shifted, softer now, steadier. Whatever storm we'd been walking through had finally emptied itself out. We met again by chance at the park one late afternoon. Or maybe it wasn't chance at all. She was sitting on that same bench where the rain once stopped us. The sky was turning the color of tea left too long to cool. She looked up and smiled when she saw me. You still show up at the right wrong moments. Maybe I just like familiar places, I said. We sat quietly. A few kids ran past. Somewhere a dog barked. She handed me a thermos. Her thermos, refilled and warm. Chamomile, she said. You look like you need it. The steam curled between us, faint and sweet. I missed this, I said, surprising myself. What tea? She teased. No, I said softly. The quiet. She nodded, eyes tracing the path of a leaf drifting down the sidewalk. It's easier now, isn't it? Yeah, I said. It is. We didn't reach for each other. We didn't need to. Something about the distance had changed. No longer heavy, no longer full of what-ifs. Just space. Safe, understood. She told me she was taking on a new job at the gallery again. I told her I was finally finishing school. She said she was proud of me, and I believed her. The sun dipped lower, painting gold along her jawline. I caught myself staring and smiled. She noticed, shook her head lightly. You still look at me like that, she said. Maybe I never stopped. She laughed quietly, brushing her hair behind her ear. Don't start. I'm not. I know, she said, almost whispering. The clock across the street struck 6. We both stood, stretching the stillness out as far as it would go. Same time next week? I asked. She smiled. We'll see. But she'd already poured another cup of tea and handed it to me before she left, her way of saying yes without saying it. As she walked away, I took a sip. Still chamomile. Still too warm to drink fast. And for the first time, it didn't feel like something unfinished. Just something quietly, perfectly enough. What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next? The ones that don't shout, but linger after the last line.